I'll be honest, I didn't like either of these shows at first. It took me a while to appreciate them.
And I know that they're more of an acquired taste.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe it. You appreciate the thing all the more because it took so long for you to learn how to appreciate it. That's very much what this franchise is for me. Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss are now two of my favorite shows. It's been a long time since I've been so excited by something so refreshingly unique that's doing its own thing. I think it's interesting that Helluva Boss is the spin-off of Hazbin Hotel, and yet it came first? How many times has that ever happened? Where the spin-off becomes a full show before the show that it is a spin-off of. But I think that puts these shows in a unique position where they can both be the spin-off and the main show at the same time. Neither one of these shows is in a position where they need to live up to the standards set by the other, because they both basically came out at the same time, but it took a lot longer for Hazbin Hotel to get off the ground after the initial pilot. It gives them a sense of equality, where it's not like Hazbin Hotel is the big brother to Helluva Boss or vice versa. They're both doing their own thing and doing it well. I've already talked about both of these shows on my channel, but I'm still enjoying them so much that I feel the need to celebrate them again. This time, I'm going to be counting down my top 10 favorite episodes from both of these shows. I'm lumping them together into the same list as if they were one show instead of doing a top 5 for each of them separately. So imagine you take the 16 episodes of Helluva Boss and the 9 episodes of Hazbin Hotel, and then jumble them all together and rank them by quality. That's basically what I'm doing, and wouldn't you know it, by sheer coincidence, I just happen to have 5 episodes from Hazbin Hotel and 5 episodes from Helluva Boss on the list. It wasn't planned out that way, that's just how it ended up, which is convenient because it means I get to talk about both of these shows in equal amount, which is what I wanted to do anyway.
Now let's go lick some ass!
The expression is kick some ass. Blitz.
Mine's better.
Oh, fuck.
Number 10. Radio killed the video star.
Let's begin. I'm gonna make you wish that I'd stayed gone. Tune on in.
This episode had a lot on its plate. It had to introduce the V's into Hazbin Hotel, setting up Vox's rivalry with Alistair, setting up Angel Dust's abusive relationship with Valentino, and reintroducing Serpentius, explaining how he went from a joke of an antagonist to being the hotel's first genuine resident. It handles all of this exposition very naturally, making all of the new characters instantly understandable and likable.
This place is about second chances, and who deserves one more than this slippery special little man?
I like how it builds up this little web of relationships. You see how Vox, Valentino, and Velvet all kind of get along with each other, but also kind of hate each other at the same time. You see how Angel Dust resents Valentino's control, but he's also jealous of Serpentius for seeming to have a real hope of salvation, but he's also suspicious of Serpentius because of, well, obvious reasons.
Are you fucking nuts? This chump was trying to kill us like literally 6 hours ago.
And when he finds out that Serpentius is working for Valentino, he gets understandably angry that one of Val's agents is invading his safe haven. We also see how Serpentius looks up to the V's and wants to be one of them, but because he's incompetent and very sensitive and emotional, he's just not up for the task of being a villain. He desperately wishes Alistair would pay him the same attention he gives Vox, which is pretty pathetic because Alistair also treats Vox like a total joke, even though Vox is actually a pretty influential demon. I love seeing Vox's pathetic overcompensation as he attempts to discredit Alistair, but he ends up trying way too hard and exposing himself to ridicule in the process.
You old-timey prick! I'll show you suffering!
Uh-oh, the TV is buffering.
I'll destroy you!
I'm afraid you've lost your signal.
And of course, both of the musical numbers in this episode are fantastic. Stayed Gone is an amazing, well-timed, high-energy jazz number where we get to see Alistair's skill with swaying public opinion, totally humiliating Vox's efforts to discredit him while hardly even trying. Then we get It Starts With Sorry, which is a perfect combination of humorous and heartfelt as we see Charlie's philosophy of forgiveness put into practice, while Serpentius' silly theatrics make his abundance of sincerity very funny.
It starts with sorry.
Sorry.
Dig down deeper and say one sincere sorry.
I'm so
Overall, Radio Killed the Video Star is just a really solid, fun, well-plotted episode, and that's really all I can ask for.
You'll have to try harder than that next time, old pal.
Number 9. Loo Loo Land.
We're going to Loo Loo Land!
Loo Loo Land? Loo Loo Land?
Loo Loo Land!
I mostly like this one because it's a cute Stolitz episode. It has a lot of funny moments between them.
If you try fucking my little ass in that park, I swear to you are so cute when you are serious.
It's a great episode to set up the dynamic between Blitz and Stolas, how Stolas keeps saying casually demeaning things to Blitz while being oblivious to how irritated he is. It's like he thinks Blitz is just teasing him, but he's actually annoyed. And this irritation just gets worse when he meets the robotic Fizzaroli, who insults him by reminding him of his past as a circus clown, resulting in a big blowout that destroys the whole theme park.
Worth it! That slutty toy clown had it coming.
This is also the episode where we really get to know Stolas for the first time, because up until this point, all we knew about him was that he,
I want to choke on that red of yours, your and lick all of your before taking out your and with more teeth.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a funny twist that not only does he have a wife and a daughter, but he's actually a pretty good dad. Maybe not the best husband, but we can kind of understand why.
You want to fuck this one too?
No, of course not.
I like this little moment where Stolas is trying to explain to Octavia why his marriage is falling apart, but he can't find the right words.
You need to understand, your mother and I felt she's always been, I haven't been, we weren't in, I'm sorry, I don't have the words.
First of all, very relatable. Secondly, it feels very realistic for this character, seeing how even though Stolas is a pretty good person at heart, he has a very hard time with communication, both receiving signals and sending them. That's why he's so oblivious to how he's irritating Blitz, and also how he's irritating his daughter by taking her to a theme park that she is clearly too old for, and being flagrantly horny in front of her, even though nobody wants to sit and listen to their dad flirt with somebody, especially on what is supposed to be a father-daughter bonding trip. So it's nice that we get to see Stolas' charm on display, but also the character flaws that hold him back. I suppose the only part in this episode that I don't like is where Moxie is being conned by the ripoff Carney. It's just such an obvious and predictable joke, and it doesn't even lead to any kind of payoff. It just sort of ends. But other than that, it's a great episode. Loo Loo Land, everybody sing along with the Loo Loo band. Every boy, every girl, every woman, every man loves Loo Loo Land.
Shut the fuck up!
Number 8. Queen Bee.
I'm sticky sweet, stuck in your teeth like cotton candy.
This is basically the furry episode of Helluva Boss, and you know what? I'm here for it. It feels kind of out of place, seeing how it's part of Season 1, yet it was released after the Season 1 finale. Figure that one out. I mean, this is the show that is both a spin-off and not a spin-off at the same time, so I guess Helluva Boss exists on the quantum level. Anything's possible. Also, it takes place in the Gluttony Ring, which isn't in any other episode. It features Luna as the central protagonist, which doesn't happen in any other episode, and it's full of hellhounds, who we don't see a whole lot of in this show. But let's be real here, a huge part of why this episode is on the list is just this character. Her design is really cool. I love the lava lamp texture they use on different parts of her body. I love the song they have her sing, how it just goes on forever like it's gluttonous for itself. They really did do a good job throwing this demon into the show in a way that you'll never forget her. She's just like, hey, look at me. Look at all the cool shit I can do. Look at how cool and awesome and sexy I am. Fucking bask in my glory, bitch. Like, she just takes over the episode, and as soon as she's introduced, it's like, fuck, I guess this is what we're watching now. But it works.
I feel like I went a little too hard with the confetti this time, though. I have, like, a rainbow in my vagina right now.
But aside from just Beelzebub's presence making this a cool episode, I like how it handles its story. Much of it is devoted to this awkward tension between Luna, Vortex, and Beelzebub, and how Vortex is trying to be cool and keep the peace between these two ladies, but Luna seems to really dislike Bee out of the gate, which is understandable, I guess, because Bee, who is basically MDMA incarnate, is so pumped full of serotonin that she's kind of like Stolas in Loo Loo Land, where she's oblivious that the things she's saying kind of sound passive-aggressive and mildly insulting to Luna.
You don't give a shit how freaky you come off, and that's fucking beautiful. You are my new favorite person.
Am I though?
Yeah, bitch!
She's clearly trying to be nice to Luna, but since she's dating the guy who Luna has a crush on, and she's clearly way hotter and more interesting than Luna, it's seriously enough to get on her nerves. Which Tex seems to be able to intuit well enough, but his girlfriend is clueless, and so he has to play it cool to keep both of them happy, so it's a very awkward situation for him to be in. I like how this story thread develops through the episode, but it never really resolves. It's not like we get some huge falling out or reconciliation. It just ends with them getting mad at each other for a minute and then diffusing their own argument, which feels pretty realistic.
What's that supposed to mean? You got a problem with some sour cream? Don't fuck with me.
Sorry. Yeah. Nope. I'll check on him.
Sorry. I know I got a little spicy there. I just hope everything works out.
I like it because there's clearly tension in the room, but it's not forced for the sake of the plot. It feels very much like how people in real life would handle the situation. I also like that this episode starts out being about Luna, but then partway through, Blitz shows up, and as Luna's problem starts to resolve itself, the episode transitions to being more about Blitz and how he's dealing with the fallout from the Ozzie's incident by drowning his sorrows in Beelzejuice. It's a very natural way to progress the story without creating a proper 3-act narrative. It's very sweet how Blitz and Luna are able to kind of subconsciously bond over their shared experience of having a really bad day at a social event, even though Luna has no idea what happened to Blitz at Ozzie's, or even that he went to Ozzie's at all. But them having both been through these experiences helps push them closer on a subtextual level in a way that they probably don't even realize. And we get to see the first instance of Luna actually being proud to have Blitz as a father, when in the rest of the series prior to this point, it always seemed like she just resented him being in her life at all. At the end of the episode, we see a very drunk Blitz kind of open up a bit and level with Luna, but also level with the audience at the same time, since we really did kind of want to know how Blitz was feeling after the Ozzie's incident, and it's not good.
I had a really shitty day.
Oh yeah? Is that why you drank like 5 gallons worth of who knows what?
Fuck, Fizz was right. I'm gonna die alone, aren't I? Just a wrinkly, old, weathered waste.
All in all, this episode feels like a tangent, but a very good and needed tangent. What else can I say but drink it, tear it, fuck it up.
That was magical. Seriously, impressive. I tip my crown to you, imp boy. Respect.
Number 7. Dad beat Dad.
Looks like you could use some help from the big boss of hell himself.
As if one popping jazz tune about Alistair's rivalries wasn't enough, Season 1 of Hazbin Hotel graced us with one more. This time, Alistair is going head-to-head with the King of Hell himself, Lucifer, as he tries to get under Lucifer's skin by pretending to be a father figure to his daughter Charlie, even though at no point in this series has Alistair ever played the role of a father figure. But because he knows this will get under Lucifer's skin, and apparently that's the most important thing to him, he does it anyway.
I care for you just like a daughter I spawned.
Hold on now.
It's a little funny. You could almost call me Dad.
I love the fact that as soon as Lucifer shows up, Alistair has already decided he hates him, just because he's more powerful than him and doesn't know who he is.
Who is this? Who is this man? Are you the bellhop?
So he makes it his goal to get under Lucifer's skin, even though both of them know that Lucifer is far more powerful than him. And he's able to pull it off because he knows that Charlie not only craves fatherly affection she isn't getting from her dad, but she also craves affection from him personally. because she's just that kind of person who wants everyone to love her. And Alistair so far has been a very important person in her life, but he's always been kind of aloof, a distant, creepy guy who doesn't care about anything. So him love bombing her all of a sudden is bound to make her squeal with excitement, and Alistair knows this. Essentially, Alistair is playing both of these characters like Lucifer's golden fiddle, and it's great to watch. But even though Alistair holds all the cards in this interaction, we see a little bit later in the episode that he's not quite as invincible as we thought he was.
You may own my soul, but I ain't your fucking pet.
But you are.
Big talk for someone who's also on a leash.
Yeah, it turns out somebody else owns Alistair's soul. All along, we thought this guy was some big shot lone wolf living on his own terms, but he was actually employed in the service of someone else. Most people think it's Lilith, and yeah, that's probably the most likely theory at this point, but who knows, they might throw a curveball at us in season 2. But it's cool to see a plot twist like this that actually makes the character more interesting by undermining what we always thought were his two biggest strengths, his power and independence. But Alistair isn't really the main attraction of this episode, because this is the episode where we get to meet Mimsy for the first, not Mimsy, Lucifer for the first time. I love this guy. I love that Lucifer, a person we've all heard of, somebody who's infamous in Christian mythology as the Lord of all evil, is really just a dork. He's a depressed, divorced dad. It's such a great twist on the character, and it makes perfect sense, because one of the things people wonder about this show is why Charlie is the way she is when she lives in hell and is the daughter of Lucifer. Well, here's our answer. It turns out that Lucifer is actually pretty similar to Charlie, and the pilot was very clever about misleading us to that fact. She makes us imagine that Lucifer is some sort of serious, dark, brooding father figure who doesn't vibe with Charlie's bubbly optimism. But actually, the situation seems to be a lot more complicated than that. It seems that Lucifer isn't all too different from Charlie, but unlike her, he's a pessimist. At one point, he was an optimist, and that's why he gave mankind free will. But after seeing what mankind did with free will and only being exposed to the downsides of it, the worst of what humanity had to offer, he just gave up and lost hope. So it kind of makes sense that Charlie would be frustrated with him, although I think there's clearly more to this story than the show has so far let on, and I really do hope they explore this more in the future, because it's still not entirely clear why the two of them had a falling out in the first place. But overall, I really like the idea that we were kind of misled about what Lucifer would be like based on the pilot, and yet what he was like was so heavily foreshadowed by the fact that Charlie is the same way. It's a perfect way to kind of throw our expectations, but also pay off what they set up. But in the end, Dad Beat Dad is an episode so great, it might just cure your depression.
Take that, depression!
Number 6. Welcome to Heaven.
Oh, where the virtuous reside 24/7. Oh, people are happy that they died.
Honestly, the main reason this episode is on the list is for the second musical number, You Didn't Know. I love musical numbers that manage to juggle a whole bunch of different characters and their relationships, having lots of twists and turns, changing up the melody and so on, and this is a really good example of that.
What are we even talking about? Some crack or who fucked up already? He blew his shot like the cocks in his mouth. This discussion is senseless and petty. There's no question to be posed. He's unholy, case closed. Did you forget that hell is forever?
And I love it when musical numbers reprise or reference other previous numbers, and this one does it twice with the same song.
If hell is forever, then heaven must be a lie. Emily. If angels can do whatever and remain in the sky, the rules are shades of gray when you don't do as you say, when you make the wretched suffer just to kill them again.
Which makes sense because I guess thematically this song is kind of a follow-up to Hell is Forever. But I also like the song Welcome to Heaven, which is usually derided as one of the weakest songs in the show, and yeah, I kind of get that. I felt that way too at first, but man, the more I watch it, the more it grows on me. I think St. Peter is just so funny how he's always moaning. He gives off this gay theater kid energy, and I'm here for it. I also love the little detail where he's breathing really hard after finishing the song. song. And if the heaven stuff wasn't good enough, we also have a B plot that takes place in hell, where Cherry Bomb takes them out for a responsible night on the town. I like how they were able to integrate the B plot into the A plot by having the angels in heaven observing Angel Dust as he shows how he has improved since entering the hotel. And of course, it yields one of the funniest moments in the show.
I see the club has a sex room. So I was thinking maybe you'd want to, do a sex with me.
I'm sorry, why would we have sex?
Because I'm having sex with everyone here!
That's just top tier. I guess the main problem with this episode, though, is that it has a huge, glaring plot hole. If the angels of heaven aren't supposed to know about the exterminations, then why did Sarah let Charlie come to a meeting to pitch her rehab idea when the whole reason she's doing it is because of the exterminations? Wouldn't that totally blow their cover? It makes no sense. Adam happened to be the one to spill the beans, but it could have just as easily been Charlie. Nobody thought Charlie would spill the beans? When it's the whole reason she's up here? Lame. And don't give me that bullshit about how they could just say she's lying because she's a demon. The other angels would have no logical reason to believe Charlie any less than Sarah, even if she is a demon. So expecting everyone to just conveniently buy into your lie isn't going to work, especially when Emily is right there to back her up. But anyway, plot hole aside, Welcome to Heaven is an episode so great that once you're there, you'll never want to go back down. Of course, it is just temporary. I'm sorry you can't stay.
Every single day in heaven is a happy day. Welcome to heaven.
Number 5. Overture.
You know, when you take her out for the 5th time and she still expects you to pay the check, but you're like, hey, I thought you wanted equality.
No!
This is the official episode 1 of Hazbin Hotel, and I couldn't ask for a better introduction to the series than this. I know a lot of people love the pilot episode, and I like it too, don't get me wrong, but it is one of my least favorite episodes in these two shows. It's okay, and it does a lot of cool things with its visuals. I love Michael Kovac as Angel Dust and Edward Bosco as Alistair, and I think they bring things to the roles that their replacements, while great in their own right, don't quite capture to the same level. But still, the storytelling is a little bit labored, and it's not one of my favorite episodes. If I'm going to introduce anyone to the Helluverse, Overture is always going to be my first pick. It's just such a fantastic introduction to this world and these characters. It perfectly sets up the story and the stakes, which were not very well established in the pilot, and all of the characters get their little moments in the limelight.
You actually think I'd be cleaning bottles and listening to you fucks bitch and moan all the time if he wasn't forcing me?
I like being forced.
Keep that to yourself, Nev.
The musical numbers in this episode are just perfect. Happy Day in Hell and Hell is Forever work so well as a pair because we see how one of these songs acts as the perfect response to the other one, and this is reinforced by the fact that Hell is Forever starts with a short, out-of-breath reprise of Happy Day in Hell.
You can wave that tour farewell. It'll be a happy day.
Let me stop you right there. Save us all precious time.
And I think for a lot of us, our favorite moment in this episode is the part where Vaggie is trying to get Nifty to say her line, but she just gives this 1,000-yard stare every time she says action.
How was that?
Well, Nifty, you actually have to say the line, so let's roll again.
Okay.
Action.
You're doing great, vagina.
Cut!
But the show stealer of this episode is Adam. He's played by Alex Brightman, who gives a hilarious performance as this overgrown frat boy who just spends the whole episode trolling Charlie.
It's a solution to our biggest problem.
Oh, herpes. Yeah, that's a bitch.
No, our other biggest problem.
Oh, ugly people? Math.
I love this guy.
Call me Dickmaster.
Adam.
Alex Brightman plays 3 characters in Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss, and to his immense credit, he manages to pull off 3 completely distinct voices.
Awesome job, Danger Tits. Pound it.
I heard that you're helping people.
Be sure to rhyme thong and slog.
I didn't know these 3 were voiced by the same person until I was told about it. It really shows how talented this guy is as a voice actor.
I know, I fucking rock.
More than I can say for Richard Horvitz, who can basically only do one voice, although he does do it pretty well.
Fuck
you!
If hell truly is forever, and this is what hell is like, I gotta say I can't complain too hard, because Overture is one fantastic overture to the series.
And I don't give a crow that his brains got in my eye.
Number 4. Truth Seekers.
You said you liked that musical I recommended to you.
I lied. I left halfway through.
You said you loved it.
It was awful, Moxie. It was about ugly, horny cats.
This episode is where Helluva Boss went from being impressive for a YouTube show to straight up just being impressive in general. This would be impressive even for a mainstream cartoon produced for television. This action scene at the end almost reaches Richard Williams levels of dynamic, fluid motion. This is like top tier shonen anime level storyboarding. And honestly, overall, the animation in Helluva Boss, while it might not be quite as consistent and fluid as the animation in Hazbin Hotel, it is consistently more interesting just in terms of the kind of shots that they line up. And there are some impressive moments in Hazbin Hotel, but it's just a lot more consistently impressive how they choose to stage everything in Helluva Boss. And it would be impressive if the action scene were the only great animation set piece in this episode, but we are gifted another one. The hallucination scene where Blitz and Moxie are tripping on the truth serum is some incredibly impressive animation, and I love how it shifts between styles. But while the animation in this episode is impressive, it's the writing that really hooks me in. I love how these two characters hallucinate these big, trauma dump therapy sessions as we see Blitz get taunted and tormented by all of the people he's had relationships with in the past, telling him that he will die alone because he's a worthless piece of shit who's always pushed people away when they get too close to him.
I believe your self-conscious is trying to tell you that you simply cannot fathom proper intimacy, but also craving as well. It's rather unfortunate, sir, considering it's often how you treat those who stand by you, such as myself. Are you worried I may have enough of it one day as well?
Stop fucking talking, all of you!
It's such a great moment for this character because it's the first time in the show that we really get some insight into what's going on in his mind. For this whole series, he's just been this annoying, crass, foul-mouthed prick, but this is the first time we really get to see the pain he's going through on the inside, how this rough exterior is really just a cover for his deep insecurities. And Moxie going through his own therapy session with this hallucination of Blitz as the Phantom of the Opera is just the sugar on the cream.
Why, Moxie, why have you held your true feelings inside?
I am scared of rejection.
Why, Moxie, why do you have Millie put it in your butt?
It gives me an erection.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Stolas. His entrance into the episode is a fantastic horror scene that, for the first time in either of these shows, really shows how scary a demon can be.
What's the matter, Demon Hunter?
Never seen a real demon before.
It's great because up until now, we've only known Stolas as this sensitive cream puff with a horny disposition, so seeing him act like Pazuzu at once feels very strange, but also kind of weirdly in character for him. Speaking of which, as a hardcore Stolitz shipper, this moment at the end of the episode gives me life. Those of you who also ship Stolitz understand that in Helluva Boss, this is the holy fucking grail. There exists no finer moment than this one.
Am I going to get any thank you for the rescue, Bitsy?
Well, I suppose you should. Want me to fuck your brains out tonight?
Very much so.
All right, but you're keeping quiet or I'm using those bear traps.
Oh, please do.
Truth Seekers is where Helluva Boss really spread its wings for the first time and went from being a funny little internet cartoon to being an impressive showcase of deep character development, funny writing, and gorgeous animation. And for that, it's one of the best episodes in the series.
Yeah, you can unclench your bird puss, Stolas. It's not gonna happen again, okay?
Number 3. Circus.
Look, I didn't mean to interrupt your, the party. I was just trying to...
Don't bother with excuses. I know why you were here.
You do?
You were here to ravish me, weren't you?
You?
This is notable for being the episode that made me a fan of Helluva Boss, because I didn't really like the show much until I saw this episode, which is funny because a lot of the episodes of season 1 are on this top 10 list, showing that I definitely grew an appreciation for them on second viewing. But this is still one of my top 3 episodes, and you can probably guess why. I think this episode has a special place in the heart of every Stolitz shipper, seeing how it's basically devoted entirely to the relationship between Blitz and Stolas. This episode is really clever for presenting the love story between Blitz and Stolas in 3 chapters that take place over 3 different days in Stolas' life. The first act happens on one of his birthdays when he's a kid. We can assume he's about 10 years old here, and he finds out that he's betrothed to Stella to produce a precautionary heir for the Goetia family, which is bad news not only because Stolas is gay, but also because Stella is
Want to fuck this one too?
No, of course not. Not a nice person, we'll just say. By the way, that's Jafar from Aladdin as his dad.
A wadded up 5 in a slim fit condom.
I think it's time to say goodbye to Prince Abubu.
But because he's so sad about this, his dad decides to take him to the circus, where he sees Blitzo the clown, and it's love at first sight for him. His dad notices that he enjoyed Blitzo's performance, so he hires him to be his son's friend and playmate for a day, and Stolas gets to enjoy a nice evening with his new favorite person. Then the next act of the story shows Stolas and Blitz meeting up again for the first time in 25 years, and promptly fucking each other. This takes place just a little while before episode 1, and it has one of the funniest sex scenes I have ever seen.
Blitzy, oh my, yes!
But it's also an important piece of character development because it shows how the relationship between the two of them got off on the wrong start, creating a misunderstanding that's still going on at this moment in the series as we speak. Then the third act shows the aftermath of the Ozzie's incident from Stolas' perspective, which I like because we also got to see the aftermath from Blitz's perspective in Queen Bee. I love the detail that every act begins with Stolas waking up in the morning, or what looks like it could be the morning. I'm not really sure with these skies. In the first act, he wakes up happy and excited because it's his birthday, but this is probably the last day in his life that he will ever wake up feeling happy. In the second act, he wakes up tired and depressed, and we see him take a couple of happy pills. And in the third act, he wakes up on the floor after having drunk himself to sleep after the Ozzie's incident. This time he takes 3 happy pills. We see how Stolas' life has been on a downward spiral ever since he was a kid, but at the same time, we have a certain hope that one day Stolas might recover from his depression, and his darling Blitzy might eventually come to accept him into his life, but who knows when that might happen. I also like how in the first season we weren't really sure what this relationship was about, and the Aussies episode threw us a real curveball by showing us that Stolas really loved Blitz, whereas for the first 6 episodes we kinda just assumed that Stolas was only having sex with Blitz because he fetishized imps, but Circus really puts on display the fact that Stolas' love for Blitz is not just some casual fling for him, and it doesn't even really seem to have much to do with Blitz being an imp at all. It's something that runs deep in his core, and he would be absolutely devastated if something happened to Blitz and he wasn't able to see him anymore. So Circus is a fantastic exploration of this much-needed backstory between these two great characters. I couldn't ask for a better showcase of this beautiful, dysfunctional love story.
What the fuck was that, Stolas?
That was the sound of a fucking divorce!
Number 2. Masquerade.
Okay, enough of that. Angel, what the fuck?
What? You said it was show and tell day. I'm showing you my best film, and I'm telling you that it scored me a win over that bitch Tiffany Titfucker.
This is the Angel Dust Pathos episode, where we get to see how much sadness lies beneath his gay Bugs Bunny exterior. Much like Blitz, it's only here that we get to see the true depths of his suffering, as he not only has an abusive relationship with Valentino, but Valentino actually owns his soul, so there is nothing he can do to get out of it. He has to do what whatever Valentino wants him to do in the porn studio, and the loss of control over his life has turned him into a nervous wreck, drowning his sorrows in endless liquor and drugs to try to pretend that he has any power over himself and his body.
And maybe, if I can ruin myself enough in the process, if I end up broken, I won't be his favorite toy anymore. And maybe he'll let me go.
The Poison music video is perhaps the most well-animated, well-edited moment in either of these two shows. It's astonishing. The choreography of these dance moves, how it cuts between the dance scenes and him having sex with Valentino and him doing the porn shoots, and it does it so quickly and artfully. It's just so incredible how they're able to show so much emotional depth with this song while also making it such a high-energy dance number. It's really in keeping with Angel Dust's personality, and it gives a very direct insight into how he thinks and feels as this party animal who loves to perform but is losing his mind, having to constantly perform these intense, exhausting porn shoots without his consent.
Poison, I'm drowning in poison. I'm filling up my glass, but it's always hollow, full of poison. I'm sick of the poison. Wish I had something to live for tomorrow.
But what's amazing is that that isn't even the best musical number in the episode. Yeah, the second song, Loser Baby, is by far my favorite song from Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss. Sung by Keith David and Blake Roman, it's a beautiful, uplifting jazz tune about two people who are down on their luck, who've sold their souls to other demons and are living every day of their lives in alcoholic misery, regretting the choices they made. But they find each other in this moment and are able to bond over the fact that even though they've both ruined their own lives beyond repair, and there is nothing they can do that can ever change that, they can still relate to each other, and so they can comfort each other. They can be losers together, and maybe come to forgive themselves for their mistakes.
We're both losers, baby, we're losers. It's okay to be a
coked up, dick-sucking hoe?
Maybe that's fine by me.
This might be the most uplifting song I've ever heard. And Husk, played by Keith David, just becomes a whole complete character in this episode, which really took me by surprise. I barely even registered his existence up until this episode, and somehow in 5 minutes he goes from being window dressing to being a fully fleshed out person with his own backstory and lovability, and it somehow all feels totally earned. It doesn't feel rushed. It feels so perfectly economical the way they did it.
Stop! Fucking Christ! You can cut the act already. It's never gonna work on me, so all you're doing is making an ass out of yourself with this fake bullshit.
Call me fake one more time, motherfucker!
This episode, which is primarily about Angel Dust, ends up being secretly about Husk. And if that wasn't enough, it's also about Charlie. We get to see some really interesting development for her, where she has to deal with the fact that in trying to help Angel, she actually ended up hurting him. It's a tricky situation for her because she's so overflowing with empathy at all times that she constantly feels the need to help people and to be validated by them. But when she's put in a place where her help is actually detrimental, she's horrified by how much she's overstepped Angel's boundaries and feels really bad about it.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go write 100 apology letters and a lesson plan for tomorrow about boundaries.
And it shows that Charlie really takes her own message seriously. If she's running a rehab clinic to get demons to change their ways, how can she expect them to learn and change if she herself isn't willing to do the same thing and own up to her mistakes? And it leads to this really cute moment at the end.
Charlie, it's fine. I get it. Thanks for caring about me.
Masquerade is an episode so good that I would have been happy with it just being the end of season 1. And it's only episode 4. But I swear, if it just ended then and there, I would have been satisfied with this season because it's just that good of an episode. It is so good.
Good to know, because this guy ain't half bad.
Before I tell you my number 1 pick, I just want to give an honorable mention to X's and Oo's because Chaz is hilarious.
What do you want?
Whoa, whoa.
Damn it. This usually works.
And with that out of the way, number 1, Ozzie's.
Who's singing love songs in my lustful lounge?
Ozzie's ain't the place for sentimental sounds.
What you expect from a proprietor like us?
Your demon host, Osmodeus, the embodiment of lust.
Oh, hell yeah. You could probably guess that either this one or Masquerade was going to be number 1 because 2 of the other episodes on this list were dealing with the fallout from this episode. That's how important this episode is to Helluva Boss. It's sort of like the climax of the whole series so far. It's like the series was edging us up until this episode and it blew its frickin' load. And then season 2 was the refractory period while it builds up the tension for the next go around. Just like with You Didn't Know, which was a song that juggled a whole bunch of different characters and their relationships. This one does the same thing, but on steroids. Here we see the relationships between Moxie and Millie, Moxie and Blitz, Blitz and Verosika, Blitz and Stolas, Stolas and Asmodeus, Asmodeus and Fizzaroli, Fizzaroli and Blitz. There are so many relationships bouncing off of each other in this song, and it's amazing to see it all play out. And I just love nightclubs in movies. Tech Noir from Terminator, 2001 Odyssey from Saturday Night Fever, whatever that cool club was from Scarface. I just think nightclubs are amazing sets for movies with the moody atmosphere, the crazy colored lights, the music. It's just so awesome every time I see a great nightclub scene, and this one is no exception. This song is just fire from start to finish, easily my favorite musical number in Helluva Boss. I love how it alternates from Moxie singing his sincere love song to Fizz and Ozzie interrupting him with their heckling and back and forth.
I want to. Yeah, what do you want? Butt stuff, piss play, bondage? Make gentle love to you.
What a lipstick imp. You really killing the vibe. Get a load of this dweeb and his unsatisfied pride.
But that's just the aesthetic stuff. What about the story? Well, before I talk about the grippingly depressing stuff, it's worth mentioning that this episode also has some of the cutest lovey-dovey material between Moxie and Millie, and even between Fizz and Ozzie. We get not 1, but 2 examples of demons who actually allow themselves to love each other in a healthy way, even if Ozzie is still in the closet about it.
Oh, ain't that just such a happy display? It sickens me. Get the fuck out.
But that only makes it more heartbreaking to see how broken these 2 are, and how unwilling Blitz is to let himself love Stolas.
Stolas, don't act like what we have is anything but you wanting me to fuck you, okay? You make that really clear all the time.
I love Brandon Rogers' acting in this moment. It's so great how on that last line you can almost hear him starting to cry, but he's holding it in just enough that it's barely perceptible. But it makes me wonder about him. Does Blitz actually believe that Stolas only thinks of him as a plaything? Or is this just something he's telling himself so that he doesn't have to open up to Stolas? Is he on the verge of crying because he genuinely thinks Stolas doesn't love him and is only using him for sex? Or is he on the verge of crying because he knows Stolas loves him, but he feels that he has to push Stolas away so that he doesn't destroy their relationship in the end by being a worthless, unlovable piece of shit, as Verosika and Fizzaroli made a point about?
Is that Blitzo? So you're showing your face? Hey, everybody! This guy's a total disgrace. Some nerve you got to comment on a relationship. Last I checked, your love life is a pile of shit!
Oh, Blitzo? I used to date.
Oh, Verosika, you're here.
And perhaps maybe his true feelings are somewhere in between. It's really complicated. Another great achievement of this episode is how it provides emotional context and depth to what was really a very bizarre and off-putting running gag in this season. How Blitz keeps obsessively stalking Moxie and Millie in their home without any real context for who this character is and his pathos. It just doesn't really hit right. It's not really even all that funny. It's just very strange.
Honey, can you get me the butter?
Sure, sweetie.
Spoiler alert, the butter's spoiled.
What's funny, honey?
Really impressive wordplay.
What the? Why are you in our fridge?
But after seeing the Aussies episode, it puts everything into context. The reason Blitz is so creepily obsessed with his employees' marriage is because they have a happy marriage. They have a marriage that is wholesome, healthy, and loving, and that's something that Blitz desperately craves, which makes it a perfect tragic irony when, in order to spy on Moxie and Millie during their anniversary, he has to reluctantly invite Stolas on a date to the club in order to get in the door. But once he's in there, he's unable to see what he has right in front of him because he's too busy obsessing over Moxie and Millie. Here, right in front of him, he has a man who not only loves him to death, but is also extremely rich, powerful, and beautiful. He has the perfect man right in front of him, but he doesn't want to look. He's afraid to look because he's afraid of what he'll do to their relationship. This is really brought home in the final scene where he comes home and looks at the pictures on his phone. He sees a picture of him with Stolas, one of him with Moxie and Millie, one of him with just Moxie, one of him with Luna on her adoption day, one of him with Veronica, two of him with Fizzaroli when they were kids, and then this one, him with his sister Barbie Wire and his mother, who is implied to have died in the fire that he accidentally started at the circus. Of course, at this point in the series, we haven't seen that backstory yet, so we don't know the full context of why Blitz is crying at seeing his dead mother. But that's one of the things this show is so good at. Just like with the stalking joke from the pilot, it sets up little clues that only get explained later on, so when you have the context, you realize that he's not only crying because he misses his mother, he's crying because he caused the death of his own mother. And that serves as a reminder to him that everything his hallucinations told him in the Truth Seekers episode was correct. Everything Fizzaroli and Veronica said about him at the nightclub was true. He is going to die alone because he's a selfish imp and he ruins everything. Every good relationship he has ever had has been ruined by him hurting other people. This is the tragedy of Blitzo the Clown. Of course, later on we see him finally open up to Fizzaroli and mend their relationship, which does give us hope that maybe he can mend his relationship with Stolas and the two of them can find peace together at last. But this moment, this devastating moment of sadness, is where the Ozzie's episode chooses to end. It chooses to end on Blitz having just been brutally humiliated by his ex-girlfriend and estranged stepbrother, looking at a picture of his mother and weeping. What an ending! It's enough to make you say, "Ridi, pagliaccio, sul tuo amore infranto, ridi del duol che t'avvelena il cor. Vesti la giuppa." And that's what Blitz is doing every day of his life, putting on the costume, being the laughing clown, pretending that he isn't suffering on the inside. And that is fucking depressing. But that's where I'm going to end this video. Those are my top 10 favorite episodes of Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss. Let me know what your favorite episodes are. Both of these shows are still running, and I'm sure that both of them haven't even reached their halfway points, which means we still have a whole lot more story to tell, a whole lot more laughs, a whole lot more tears, a whole lot more great animation, and a whole hell of a lot more songs to enjoy. The trailer for the second half of Season 2 of Helluva Boss recently came out, and it looks like it's gonna yield us some of the greatest material this team of creatives have gifted us so far. Things are only looking up for this series, and potentially Hazbin Hotel. This is one of the things I'm most looking forward to in entertainment in the next few years, and I'm so glad that YouTube was able to make them possible. Here's to Season 2, Episode 8 of Helluva Boss. Let's hope it's a good one.